economy, and with an election coming up very soon, her future when it comes to politics here in Ohio. That'll be coming up in a little bit, but we're going to start today and talk about your utility bills, your water bills, and your rights. There's a lot of new legislation that is coming up in the next couple of months that are going to deal with your bills and how it's going to impact you. And to get that discussion started today, we have Dave Welch from the City of Toledo, the Director of Public Utilities. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Afternoon.
Thank you very much. Most recently, there was some discussion about security deposits, how much money people would have to put down to have their service turned on. There was a change by the Bell administration, kind of in what they were endorsing this week. Give us an idea of what's changing for people and what they need to know.
Well, basically what we did is we enacted the policy about a year ago. Took a look at it. We're trying to make sure that we were limiting our liabilities. You know, we had a rate increase. We want to make sure we're doing everything we can to make sure we get the money we have and not lose money. We enacted a policy. We looked at it for about a year. We had the DPU advisory committee. That's the real estate investors, the realtors, general contractors. We've been meeting for a while. We've been looking at it. We looked at the data. And it really wasn't making a lot of difference on our bottom line. So what we did is we reversed our policy. And basically now you have to establish, or if you have established bad credit, then you will be required a deposit. Anybody else, we're not going to require a deposit.
What are you considering bad credit? A lot of late payments, non-payments?
If you have your water shut off for non-payment, if you're theft of service, things of those types.
Okay, so it might not necessarily be I made one late payment, for example.
No.
Okay. Did you find when you enacted the original policy of more general when it came to the security deposits that you got some flack from people? I know some people were calling it not business friendly.
Right, and that's why we started the DPU advisory committee. We asked those people to come in, sit down with us, and talk to us. Tell us how this is affecting your business. How's it affecting the real estate markets? And we sat down and went through a number of things. We provided them with data, and there's a great feedback. And in the end, listening to those folks, we decided that you're right. We need to pull back on the deposit policy. It really wasn't doing anything for our bottom line, and it was actually hurting our business in the community.
Okay, so if somebody comes in from another state and buys a house here in Toledo, would they then have to pay the deposit, or will they be considered having a clean record?
No, and that was one of the things that came up in the advisory committee. If they're buying a house, if they're buying an apartment complex, they've already went through a credit check to buy that property, so that's nothing we needed to do, so we're going to assume they have good credit.
Okay. Now, of course, all of this building up to a lot of the improvements you've had to make, especially at the water treatment plant. It's in the tens of hundreds of millions of dollars. What's the dollar amount now?
About $314 million.
$314 million.
Just for the plant.
So it's a balance for you, I would imagine, because I don't think there's anybody out there that likes to pay water bills.
Right.
But everybody wants to turn on the faucet and get clean water. So do you find that a difficult balance when it comes to making sure that the customer's happy, relatively happy with their bill and making clean drinking water?
It's always a challenge. We try to be customer friendly. We try to do what we can, and we've enacted a number of things. But in the bottom line here is that we have to make sure that we collect the money that's due. We have, as you mentioned, $314 million worth of projects that we have to get going to make sure this plant continues to supply reliable water. And there is that balancing act. But we do work with our customers. If there are issues, they can call us, we can talk to them, we can put them on a payment plan. So there are ways that they can work with us.
One thing, when I talk to people about water bills, and they have issues with estimation and trying to make sure that it's an accurate reading. And part of what you're also working on down the line here is the Bill of Rights for customers. And it might be a couple months away from actually coming about. Different items of that are making sure that people are informed and that they know their rights. And you talked about establishing credit and not incurring late charges sometimes when it's 15 days of the billing cycle. Do you feel like that you need to continue to adapt with people because the economy is what it is and people need to have the water service? Do you feel like you need to adapt in that way?
And we're trying. If you look at what we've done over the last year or so, we increased the time for people to pay their bills from 15 calendar days to 15 business days to allow people to do that. We're working on payment plans if they need to. So yeah, we're constantly working with the community, seeing where we can help. We increased our call center hours from 7 to 6 o'clock in the evening, just to give people access. So we're trying to do what we can. We tried the monthly billing if people are having trouble budgeting a quarterly bill.
How did that work out? I mean, it's voluntary.
It's voluntary. We don't have a lot of folks that take advantage of it, but there are some, and it helps them budget their money better.
Do you find it eventually you could get down the line where it would be a mandatory monthly to spread it out as opposed to voluntary now?
Yeah, well, the online billing that we're doing right now, we just proposed that in front of City Council. That will get us the first step to be be able to view your bill online. You can view it at any time. But one of the bigger issues is the automatic meter reads. Those are the meters that we put in that will allow us to look at any time, any day, any whatever, and that way you can get an accurate read every month, and then you can bill accurately every month. But that's 5-6 years off. We're replacing those meters as we can. To do it as a formalized plan would take about 5 years and about $18 million. And when we put the rate increase out there, we pulled some of that stuff back because we knew the most critical thing we needed to do was fix the plan.
Yeah. Do you have any meters right now that you can watch all the time?
Yes, we have. Okay. We replace about 2,000 a year now, and we're replacing those with automatic meter reads. Where they really come into light is when you can replace a whole route. So you can take that whole route off and do that as an automatic meter read.
Okay.
So right now we're not actually viewing them monthly. We still get the quarterly reads. They're not used as an automatic meter read, but it's going towards a full changeover.
Okay, let me ask you about the online. Is that something you see realistically happening in the next 2 to 3 years?
It'll happen within the next 6 months. We just put legislation in front of the City Council. We've talked with our consultant on the software. We should have that up in 6 months.
What's been the biggest hurdle? I mean, you can do your gas bill, you can do your electric bill online. What's been the biggest hurdle for the city not getting on board with that yet?
Well, a part of it is we're starting to look at things and how we can make the utility a lot better for folks, and that was one of the things that came up. There are a million things that we're trying to do. The automatic meter reads, it was just trying to prioritize, and this is one of the things working with our committee that came to the top that, hey, online billing is something that is needed. It will also help us in the long run because a lot of people call in just to get an idea of what their bill is. If we can take those people from calling in, it leaves more time for people that have bill disputes and things of that sort.
And the call center, I would imagine, is pretty bogged down with issues. It might be something as simple as, what's my balance?
Right.
And so that's where the online, you're thinking, would come in and kind of alleviate that. Let me ask you about the appeals board. That's also being proposed. Do you think it's important, it's an important step that people have an extra place to voice their issues?
We have an appeals board right now, and we take in about 1,200 appeals a year. Most of those, the first step, though, is try to resolve it with our customer service. Your first contact with the customer service, we try to resolve it at that issue. Mm-hmm. If that can't happen, then it gets kicked up to a supervisor, and most of these are resolved there. In the end, to the Board of Appeals, the actual hearing, we have about 6 or 7 a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So would you anticipate more as this legislation goes through?
No, because there are certain things within the rules and regulations that are appealable, and most of the folks that call and have issues with they don't understand their bill. They get a large bill for maybe a back bill or something like that. And some of that stuff we can explain and talk to them. What is appealable is if you have something like a winter average you didn't get because you were a snowbird. You go down south every winter and you don't establish a good record there. They can appeal something like that. Or they have a broken water line. And if that water, we can show and they can prove that it didn't go down the sewer, we can take that sewer charge off. So there are a number of things that are appealable, but most of them get resolved before they ever get to that appealable hearing.
It seems as though there's a lot going on with water and utilities kind of all at the same time. You're making the repairs to the plant, there's a rate increase, now you're doing these different bills of rights and that kind of thing. It's a lot to handle. Is it doable?
It is very doable. I mean, I've got a great staff working from the bottom line to the people answering the phone all the way up to my administrators. Great folks. We work every week on issues, and that's why you're starting to see a lot of things happening. You're seeing the whole 5-year master plan for the water plant. You're seeing the issues with the extended call center, the extended time to pay your bill. These are things that we've talked about for years, but we've got people dedicated and working towards them, so it is doable. And you'll see some good things coming out in the near future.
All right, Dave Welsh from the City of Toledo, Director of Public Utilities. But thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Coming up, we have the Lieutenant Governor. What's being done to actually create jobs in the state of Ohio? She's going to tell you next.